see you. Just looking at your injury situation ahead of Man City tomorrow. Firstly, how's Anthony Gordon?
Ant is very close. He's worked well during the break. It'll be touch and go for the game. We'll make a very late decision on him.
And I know Sandro Tonali had to step away from international duty as well. He was pictured training the other day. Is he okay?
Yeah, Sandro's fine.
Right, that's good news for you. And Nick had the issue with the protocol, didn't he? Is he fine and okay as well?
Yeah, Nick's trained. Yeah, no problems with that.
Okay. Any other issues to deal with?
Not that I can think of, Keith.
How much are you looking forward to getting back and playing after what I guess has been a long couple of weeks for you?
Yeah, very keen to get back to football. It's strange. We've been this season in a period where we've played loads of games in a really short period of time. And then, of course, you have the international breaks, which are probably welcome for us this season. But now we go to a period without that break. And, yeah, that's going to be our busiest spell of the season. Relentless for us over the Christmas period. And that's where we need all of the players that are currently working their way back to fitness, ideally back. So we had a full, healthy squad to share the burden in the coming weeks.
It's the sort of game, Man City at home, that you know that your players will be up for, the fans will be up for. It's probably actually a good fixture for you to come back to, isn't it?
Well, we'll wait and see. I think that it's a really tough fixture. We know Manchester City's qualities, but I get your point. I think we want a raucous St James's Park with the home support this season has been incredible. I think we've played well at home as well, so we're looking forward to the match. We have a lot to prove to ourselves, really, I think, after the last couple of away games in the Premier League, which have been really disappointing. So we're desperately keen to try and put that right and get our Premier League form back on track.
Do you get that sense from the players, do you, that they feel that they need to prove themselves after the last couple of performances?
Yeah, well, I've always had that feeling. Regardless of your results, you have something to prove every game, and you have, most importantly, yourself to consistently answer any questions you have about yourself. And I want the players to respond this weekend. Everyone's hurt from, as I said, those 2 away games that we had in the Premier League, and no one more than myself, been looking deep into everything that we do and looked back at those games and planned and plotted a route ahead. So yeah, keen to get the games going again.
After that, it's batten down the hatches up until, well, I was going to say Christmas, but it kind of goes beyond that, doesn't it? The schedule's relentless, and you touched on that a moment ago. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it goes right to the end of January. This is going to be a really, I think, a really enjoyable spell, because the games have been brilliant so far. I think we've really enjoyed the Champions League challenge that brings, and then back to the Premier League, and that sort of yo-yo effect is, we have to deal with it better. It's been a real challenge, especially away from home, as we spoke about many times in the Premier League, and we've got to try and navigate that better. But I think we've got the squad to cope with that, especially if we can get these last remaining players fit that have been close and building their fitness. And then I think our squad looks really strong.
Thanks, Keith. Andy?
Morning, Eddie. On a personal level, you're inducted into the club's Hall of Fame the other night. I know you're pretty humble, you don't like speaking about yourself, but after such a relatively short time at the club, how big of an accolade is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was, as you say, the personal accolades I find difficult, because it's never about, I always feel it's never about me. It's always about the team. It's always about the players, the staff, and I'm just one of those staff, obviously leading them, but very grateful for the staff and the input and everything that they give me, and collectively how we go about our work. We try to do the best we can. So when that accolade was sort of put on my radar, I decided to accept it, or sort of on the behalf of everybody. Came at a sort of a difficult time, mixed with some disappointing results, but you have to try and put that aside. And it was a great night on Tuesday, and I respect the foundation do some incredible work, and I want to highlight that the staff of the foundation, everyone that uses the foundation, it's a remarkable organisation, and I was very proud to be there and listen to the stories of various people, and I think that put everything into context and gave extra boost and lift going into the next group of games.
Absolutely. Look, on the football, Lewis Hall, obviously he's had a difficult time of injuries, looked really, really good for the under-21s in midweek, could be on for, I think it's only his 3rd start since February. How much do you sense that he is absolutely champing at the bit, not just to get back out there against a side like Manchester City, but get out there consistently now as well?
Yeah, Lou is a very, very driven human being. I think he's got, for someone so young, he's got a great mentality about him. He wants to play, wants to make a difference, wants to help his team. He's got standout qualities. I think we've really missed those qualities since he's been injured. But for someone so young, we've had to be really careful with him and try and get him back onto the pitch when he's close to 100% fit. And I think that's the key thing for him now, and that gives him the best chance then of staying fit. And especially, as we said, with the schedule coming up, we're going to have to manage him at times. But he's a real talent.
We were speaking, before about the form recently, that kind of difference between the Champions League and the Premier League. How do you make sense of the Newcastle form right now? Because there are so many differences between Champions League, Premier League, away form, home form. Can you make any sense of it or not?
You can try. I don't think you'll ever get a definitive, and everyone I know wants definitive sort of one thing to fix, but football doesn't work like that. It's always about multi-factors. It's always about lots of different things, because you're dealing with human beings and many of them, and trying to get the team to function in the best way possible and getting back to our very best levels consistently is always going to be about a squad of 30 players. So we've worked really hard during the international break. I've done a lot of analysis personally to try and make sense of it all and bring some clarity. And I think that's the key thing, is always about the future and what tweaks and changes you'll make to try and find the best formula for consistent success. So having done that work, I'm excited about what the future will bring. There's no guarantees for anything, but I just want to see us consistently play to a really high level, and that's the challenge.
Just finally, you used that word respond before. In your time here at the club, the team have maybe faced tough times before. You've always responded. You've always bounced back. How have you done that?
I think with consistency of training and consistency of message, and having some really, really good professionals here. And I still feel we have that. I think we have a core of very honest, motivated, talented people that want to be successful. I think if you have those as a starting point, then I think success naturally, if you work hard and work smart, will come. So I'm a firm believer of trying to do the right things and not changing too much. Doesn't mean you can't change, but not changing too much. And then sometimes when you're in sort of the position that we've been in the last few weeks, is going back to basics, not complicating it, keeping it very simple for the players to understand, and giving them markers to define their performance to make sure you get what you want.
Thanks, Andy. Nisha.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
How is Tino Livramento? How close is he? Is he available?
He's very close. He's trained this international break, which has been great to see. Such an important player for us. Great to have him back. Training with the group, he's shown his qualities. He's been out a while, and his injury was serious enough to make sure we treat him well. But I'd say he's done a lot of work. He's been very, very good professionally in terms of how he's dealt with the injury and the work that he's done with the physios. So I'd say he's in pretty good shape.
How important could having him back be? He's been such an important player either side. Could he be one of the main differences as you look for consistency? Yeah,
I think he's an outstanding player, and he's got the athletic qualities and the technical qualities, as you say, off both sides of the pitch that we've missed. So together with Lewis coming back to fitness, they're two really young, energetic players that I think can add a lot to the team. So really pleased to have both players potentially available.
It goes without saying that playing Man City is one of the hardest games you'll face all season. How do you go about it as a coach? You have a player like Haaland, you've got quality all over. Do you go back to the drawing board, look at formations? If your man market's dangerous, how are you going about that challenge?
Yeah, of course you look at the opposition. We always do. We do a lot of work to try and figure out what we're going to face and give the players the tools to try and combat that. But most importantly, give the team a structure and a framework to allow us to showcase what we can do. And I think it's always a balance. We try and get that balance right between us executing what we do really well against any opponent. You're right, Manchester City have threats from lots of different areas of their team. So I think if you focus too much on one, I don't think that's right. But of course, Haaland, as you mentioned, an outstanding goal scorer, can score all different types of goals. So we're going to have to defend really, really well. But I don't think there's one way of doing it. I think if you press high, there's going to be weaknesses to that. If you drop low, there's going to be weaknesses to that. You've got to do what you think is right based on the players that you have.
And just finally, to beat Man City at home after the break, could that be a catalyst? Could that just be that result that could really change the narrative of the Premier League season?
Well, it could, and I think we're determined to try and make that happen. Whichever game is the catalyst, whichever source, we need some inspiration from myself, from the coaching team, from the players, and I think we need a very positive outlook. The season's still very young. It's very tight in terms of the points and the teams above us. Things can change very, very quickly. So I think we need a positive outlook, but we also need a determination to try and get back to our very best levels consistently.
Thanks, Nisha. Go to Damien, Dominic and Jordan, please.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
Eddie, Nick Voldemar had a really good window, got some good centre-forward goals. You've talked in the recent past about how difficult it's been to assimilate him into the team because of the lack of training time. How difficult has that been to try and assimilate him and get him into the right places and get him the right service?
Yeah, I think whenever you're not training, and the training, I think we spoke about this 2 years ago, is you can never replicate it. There's nothing that you can do to stimulate that falsely. We're doing a lot of repetition with him and video analysis, walking through situations. The obviously the best way to do that is live and is within the training sessions, and I think it's easier for the player to understand it and to take it and for things to become natural. But I have to say, considering the lack of training time we've had with him, I think he's done really, really well. And he's tried to implement as good as he can what we've asked him to do. And started off really well in terms of goals. I think those goals in the international break were doing the world of good as well. I think confidence is everything to a centre forward. So I think he could be really pleased with himself, but we have to demand more and we need more from him in the sense that he's the focal point of the team. It's such an important position. Everything will sort of come around him in terms of our performance. So there's big expectations on him. There's big pressure on his shoulders. He's handled that really well so far. And of course, then the team behind him have to deliver for him as well. And I think we haven't done that well enough in the last couple of away games.
And you were asked earlier about the schedule you have coming up into January. To what extent will that shape your season, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be a big part of it because, just the sheer weight of games will define where we are in the Premier League, how we look in the various competitions that we're in. I think it's an exciting thing. I think, again, if we can get the big body of players fit and keep them fit, I think we'll have a squad robust enough to deal with those games. But getting the players back in really good condition is the key thing. I think we can't have players that are half fit. We have to have players that are ready to execute what we need them to do at this very elite level of football. So we're working hard to do that behind the scenes.
Thanks, Damien. Dominic?
Morning, Eddie. Just on that, is there any clearer time frame on a return date for Johan Wissa?
No, I haven't got a clear, defined return date for you. He's working well, so he's not back training with us yet, but he's close. He's working with the sports scientists. He's in that phase, sort of he's moved past the physios. He's now back with the sports science team, and he's also almost entering a pre-season with them currently. He's doing a lot of work. He's looked good. He's looking better with every session. And as I say, he's close to training with us. But until he gets to there, it's very difficult to give you a date.
Yeah, and with it difficult to give us a date, the AFCON squads will be announced in the next few weeks. And given he's barely played any football the last 6 months, is there a chance he, regardless of your stance, the club stance, is there a chance he may simply not be fit enough to go away?
Well, we'll wait and see what happens.
Thank you. Jordan?
Morning, Eddie. Just on Johan, will he be a transformative signing when he returns?
Well, we hope so. I mean, he's got Premier League experience. His goal record last year was very, very good. I think he understands the league and the expectations of the league, which is crucial. And that's a big reason why we signed him, because there would be very low adaptation period. Then the big adaptation period for him now is his fitness and making sure that he comes back and he's ready to play and ready to execute what we need him to. He's done his part in that. He's working, as I said earlier, he's working incredibly hard to try and deliver that for us. and for himself and for his teammates, and he can do no more. So we're in that process of just getting him where he needs to be in terms of sharpness and fitness.
Just checking on the fitness of two other players. How are Joe Linton and Willis Sula?
Willis Sula we haven't seen back in training yet, but again I think his injury hasn't been totally plain sailing. I think there's been a few days where he's felt really good and a few days then when he's felt a bit of pain. So I think he might be going to see a specialist on Monday, not necessarily on a negative, but just to get sort of full clearance that he's okay to continue as he is. So we won't see him back sort of in the next couple of games, I don't think. Joe Linton's been fine. He took a nasty whack on his leg. He's had to bandage that up, but he's trained.
Thank you. We'll go to Chris, Luke, and then to Lee, please.
Morning, Eddie. You mentioned that there's been a lot of analysis of the international break, including, you said, of yourself. Well, what does that sort of look like? What exactly have you been doing in that regard, and what have you found, I suppose?
I always think it's very difficult to tell you what I found. But I think what it looks like is me watching a lot of games. So it's not exotic, it's not exciting, it's not necessarily what you expect me to be doing on the international break, but laptop, games, training, reviewing a lot of things. So then the only reason you do that for me is to come out with a clear plan of what we need to do next and what we need to focus on, what we need to work on, planning future training sessions. So a lot of planning, and also watching a lot of the opposition we have coming up, because time's going to be very limited as we go into games, so I need to get ahead of the curve.
You mentioned watching opposition. I'm not sure there's a polite way of saying this, but your record against Manchester City in the league's not necessarily brilliant.
Is it not good?
No.
I didn't know that. Cheers, Chris.
So in terms of that, is there been reflections on how you've approached that previously? How you can try and turn that record around a little bit?
We've done everything against them. We've done everything. Similar to the question earlier, we've pressed them, we've dropped off them, we've played a 5-4. I don't think we've got anything new left to try, to be honest. We've been unlucky in a few games, I'd say. But then you make your own luck, and you have to give a lot of credit to Pep and his team. I think they've been incredibly consistent over a long period of time, and that's why they've been the best. So full credit to them, but we'll try and find a way, and we'll have a new way of playing. We never do the same thing twice. So, yeah, we'll keep going until we try and find the answer.
Thank you. Luke?
You've had criticism before as Newcastle manager. What would be your message to those who are criticising you and this group of players at the moment because they believe the season hasn't been good enough so far?
I don't think I necessarily have a message for them, whoever they are. I think it's about us. It's about our response internally, because we feel the same. We know that our Premier League form especially hasn't been good enough, so take full responsibility for that. And all we can do then is work really hard and try and work really clever to try and find the right solutions, get the right balance in the team and find a new way forward. And as long as I see my team executing what I ask them to do, as long as I see full effort from everybody, we'll take what happens. But I do believe that we are good enough if we deliver those things to get a lot of points.
A lot of talk about this being a season of transition at Newcastle, that you are adapting, that you are changing the way you play. Do you agree with that definition of it, or can you not afford to do so?
Well, I think every team goes through transition at certain or different times, and you accept that's part of the game. You're never going to be the same, and if you are the same continually, you're going to fail eventually, because nothing stands still in this game. It moves forward so quickly. So, yeah, we are, I'd say, slightly in transition in a lot of different aspects, but that doesn't mean you still can't be successful, and that's our challenge, is to, as we move into different spheres. I mean, the style of play, I wouldn't necessarily say has been a dramatic change. Individuals always change the style slightly, depending on who you play, but there hasn't been a big intentional shift. Yes, we want to grow and improve what we do, but we still believe in the same principles. So I think it's a case of acknowledging that and still trying to win.
Lee Ryder?
Eddie, everyone associates a bad run with something sinister, something's going on in the dressing room, that sort of stuff. But do Manchester City show that you can just simply have a bad run and recover and get back to your best form?
Yeah, I mean, It's a good question, really. Is something sinister and something bad? I sort of agree with you. I think naturally people assume that there's big problems if you're not getting results, and sometimes that is the case. I'm not blind. I'm not trying to stick my head in the sand and say we don't have issues, because our Premier League form would say that we have, and it's acknowledging those is important. But sometimes you can look for something deeper than sometimes there is. It can be a case of you're missing key players, or your key players aren't playing well enough, or something that we're delivering isn't good enough, in our preparation. So we're looking through everything and to try and find a new way forward to give us consistent results. But I would say the biggest thing for me always is, are the players giving their all? And if the players aren't giving their all, then there may be something sinister. If the players are, then I back them with the qualities that will come through it. And we haven't been perfect in every game. We're a long way short in some games. But overall, I'd say the players are giving their all.
And just on that, I mean, you're never going to have everybody fully fit in one block, but hopefully that does happen. But can this team not be judged properly until everybody is back?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because as much as I'd like to say yes, don't judge us until everyone's back, it's a football season. There'll always be players out injured, so I think you have to judge us all of the time, and you're free to do that, and we have to acknowledge that. There's no free pass. We've had players out injured before, and we will have them again. It's part and parcel of football. We're a little bit unfortunate where we've lost in groups. We lost both fullbacks in terms of the younger fullbacks, and then we've lost a few attacking players, which has limited our options. But that comes with the territory.
Thanks, Lee. We've got a Scott, Craig, and then finish with Kieran, please. Scott.
Hi, Eddie. Eddie, I think I'm right in saying that there's 4 defenders who are in the last years of their contract. So Kieran, Fabian, Emile and Jamal. Have you had any conversations with Ross about contracts with them and where they're at? And is there any kind of worry that, given the age profile of some of them players, that in January the club might decide this is the chance to kind of get some value out of them by selling?
Haven't had discussions on Ross really with any players' contracts. I think he's evaluating everything as he's come in, and he's very sort of newly into the building. I'm sure he's taking a lot in regarding players of our own contracts and January, etc. We've obviously had discussions, but not necessarily firming up on plans for the future in that respect. So I'm sure that will happen at some stage. But I think we're quite relaxed currently about that situation. Yes, we're aware of all contract lengths of all the players, and we'll make decisions following that.
And then just kind of looking ahead slightly to January, and I know this isn't really your remit, but obviously Alexander was sold in the summer, and I think there's perhaps a simplistic idea that, well, that's the PSR problem solved at a stroke because he's gone for an awful lot of money. Clearly the club, though, spent a fair bit of money in the summer. I mean, where do you feel Newcastle are sitting now in terms of PSR? Because it's something we've talked about kind of ahead of every other window.
Yeah, you give me a good way out there. It's not my field. So
I realise I shouldn't have said that.
You shouldn't have said that. No, I genuinely don't know. I mean, PSR is always a factor. So in a sense of, I understand the sentiment will be selling Alex will have solved all our problems forever. That's far from the case. It will be ongoing, and it will be through, while those rules are in place, it will be through every window. That will be a big consideration.
Thanks, Scott. Craig.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
You said you'd watched a lot of games over the international break. I presume some of that included Germany with Nick. Was there anything you gleaned from that, or took from that, from a technical or tactical perspective with regards the updated number 10 or that left footer on the right or getting players around him? Did you take anything from those games as to how you can implement that here with regards to Nick?
Yeah, of course, watch those games. I think difficult to take too much because I think every squad is different and every style of play is different, and the opposition you're playing is also different. So yes, of course, we know where Nick works best and how he operates best, and we've tried to give him that framework and that environment here. But of course, it depends how much of the ball you have. It depends how strong and dominant you are in the game. I think definitely looking back at the last 2 away games, we've been too transitional to sort of see him at his best, meaning we haven't kept the ball well enough higher up the pitch to then feed him the ball in the areas where he works best. Technically, we weren't good enough against Brentford and West Ham, so we're looking to put that right.
And every time you play Manchester City, we ask a question of this nature with regards Newcastle hunting Manchester City down, because that was when the takeover happened. They were the dominant team at the time. And in recent years, it's almost felt as if, you know, the trajectory, the ascent was very steep. Where are you at now with regards to that? Will it take a little bit longer? Has there been a little bit of realisation over the past 12 to 18 months?
It's not something I judge us by. You'll understand why. You know, I don't sit there and sort of analyse Manchester City and analyse ourselves. We're just trying to win games and do what we need to do short and long term to progress the club. But I'd say we've got some way to go to get close to not just Manchester City, but get close to the top teams in the division, because we're coming from a long way back. And as much as you want to accelerate that line, we have to build, and we have to build from the inside out to get there.
Thank you. Kieran, to finish.
Maureen, there were some harsh words after the Brentford defeat last season. Given the fragility of confidence, has it been a different approach this time round, or have you shied away from being quite upfront with the players?
Well, I haven't seen the majority of the players until yesterday, so no, we've been quite upfront. I think that's my way of working. I don't believe you can be anything else. I think you've got to be honest. But of course, you've got to think, you know, these players are playing so quickly that we can't dwell too long. As much as you want to sort of live in that place and spark a response, I think it's got to be quite short, sharp, direct, and then right now it's on to the future. And the future can be very positive. It depends what picture you want to paint. So we haven't dwelled on the defeat in a sense of from yesterday when we got the group back together, but we did go to the areas that we need to improve and the areas that we have worked on, and now we need to implement that as best we can.
And kind of the transitional elements you've mentioned, have you felt the support, understanding from those above about those issues? Because a lot of people came in after the summer, of course.
Yeah, I haven't really sought that assurance. I don't feel that's right from my perspective. It's about working for me. It's about showing that we have the experience and the expertise to guide us forward, and I need to show that.